Like Selenium, we can use Playwright to control a browser with our code. It's designed for automation and testing, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can log into our website and pull out some data. So let's go over into our code editor, and I'm going to say the first thing we need to do is we need to install Playwright. So you're going to want to do pip3 install Playwright or pip install Playwright. Once that's done, you need to do Playwright install. This is going to install the browsers for us. There's Chromium, Firefox, and WebKit, and with installing it this way, we don't have to worry about any Chrome drivers not being in the right path or in the right place, or having issues like that. So it does it all for us. It also allows us to change the browser that we're using on the fly. So once that's done, the first thing we need to do is we need to talk about using it synchronously or asynchronously. So Playwright can be used with its async API. Now this is really going to be quite useful and powerful going on, but for this demo, we're going to use the synchronous API just to keep things nice and easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do from playwright.sync API, we're going to import sync Playwright. This is going to give us access to everything that we need. So we are actually going to use a context manager with sync Playwright as P. So what this is going to do is it's going to close our browser when our code is finished. That means that we are not going to have anything left open that we didn't mean to, causing massive memory issues. So now we can say that we want a browser, which is our browser instance, is equal to p.chromium, I'm going to use in this case .launch. So this is going to give us a browser object that we can work with. Now in here, I'm going to put in headless is equal to false. And I'm also going to put in slow-mo is equal to 50. Now by default, Playwright will always run headless. So if you want to actually see the browser, you need to put headless is equal to false in here. And slow-mo 50 is just going to slow it down a tad so we can hopefully see what's going on a bit better. So now we have our browser instantiated, we need a page object that we can interact with, something that we can tell our Playwright to click on links, follow things, to type into boxes. So we're going to say page is equal to browser.newPage. Now from here we can use page.goto to go to certain websites or wherever we want to. So I'm going to do HTTPS and we'll just do google.com. I'm going to save it there and I'm actually going to run it now, and what we should see is a browser pop up and then just disappear straight away. And that's our context manager working. So with our context manager like that, our code finished with page.goto, it went to that page and then it closed the browser. So there's no chances of it being left open. So the actual website that we're going to be going to is this. It's a demo page for the open cart. So I'm going to click login and it's going to take us to a nice looking dashboard, which we are going to use Playwright to log in, and then we're going to pull out some of this information. So what we want to do is we want to go to this website with Playwright. So I'm just going to copy the URL, and then we want to tell it to type into these boxes. Now I can see that this already has the username and password typed into. That's not my browser saving it, it's just there on the website, but that's okay, I'll show you how to do it anyway. Let's put the correct URL in here, save that, and to type into a box we're going to use page.fill. This is going to tell Playwright to put into whatever in this selector that we give it, whatever information that we're going to give it. So let's go back over here, get our inspect element tool and hover over this input. And as we can see here, we have this input type of text, a name, username, and an ID of input username. Now, if I hover over the password one, we can see that it's exactly the same. It's an input tag with the ID of input password. So I'm going to use these IDs and we're going to use CSS selectors. I believe that you can use XPath as well if you want to. I've just always used CSS selectors, so that's what I'm going to use now. So it's an input tag, so let's do page.fill and let's have our input. And for an ID, we use a hashtag input username and we'll do demo. We're going to copy this because it's almost exactly the same, and it was input password and the password was also demo. From here, what we want to do is we want to actually click on that login button. So we're going to do page.click, nice and easy syntax. Now we just need to find the actual selector for this button. I'm going to hover over it here, and we have we have button type submit. So I can use the CSS selectors on the type for submit. I'm just going to copy that, and we can come back and it will be button, and it was a type is equal to submit, close the bracket. So this is going to hopefully load this page up, type demo in the username and password, and then click submit button. So let's run this. So we should see it flash up. There we go. So it finished. So once it clicked on this button, it finished. So what do we want to do from here? Well, we have a couple of options. You can use the Playwright does have a query selector and a query selector all for selecting bits of information, for using CSS selectors and whatever. But what I'm going to do is the same thing that I used to do with Selenium a lot. And it would be that I would use Selenium to load the page up, and then I would tell it, I would capture parts of the HTML and I would send that to Beautiful Soup. So that's what I'm going to do here, because I think that just makes it a lot easier, especially if you're already familiar with BS4. You don't have the extra worries about new selectors or new ways of getting information out. So we need to pip install BS4 if you haven't done so already. I'm going to do from BS4, we're going to import Beautiful Soup at the top. So now we have our HTML parser installed. We need to find a way to actually tell it to give us all of the information, all of the HTML on that page. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to use page.innerHTML. We need to give this a selector though, because it's going to pull in just the HTML from inside this main selector that we give it. So if we come back, let's log in, and we get presented with this. If we hover over the piece of information that we want to get the total orders. And then we start going back up the tree a little bit. We get this div ID here of content, which has actually got all the information in it that we're after. So if we move that over, we can see this is the content here. So I'm going to copy that, and we're going to tell it that we want all of the HTML from this selector, and it was an ID. So we use the hashtag of content. Let's go ahead and print out. What we'll do actually is we'll save this into a variable, and then let's print out HTML. Let's run this. It's going to pop our browser up, and there we go. So let's move this up, see what we got. A load of information, which is great, and we can see that it's all appearing there. Now, sometimes what you might find is that you can see that it's this loading thing here. If it's not loaded properly for you, or you want to wait for a certain piece of information to appear, the easiest way to do that would be to use page.isVisible. So we can say wait until an element is visible before carrying on. So if we come back to this one, let's just say we want to have, let's say that this tile body, so this is important to us, this thing. So we could say div.tile body. So it will wait until that is visible before it gives us the HTML content. Now I didn't have that issue in this case, but just in case you do, that's one way that you can do it. We're now going to pass this into Beautiful Soup. So we'll do soup is equal to Beautiful Soup HTML. We're going to give it, and let's have the HTML.parser will do fine for us. So what we'll do, we'll just try printing out print soup dot find. Let's do find all h2 tags, and we'll see if that gives us some elements back, so we know that it's working. We see it logging in, and it flashed back, and down here you can see that we do have a few elements that match the h2 tag class, and this one here is the one we were after, the 10.7k, which was the number of orders. If you wanted any of these other bits of information, we now just have a Beautiful Soup object that you can pass and work with. Now we've seen that the elements are working fine, we'll just do our total orders is equal to soup.find, and we're going to use that h2 tag that we just saw, and it was a class, and it was pull-right, and we can have .text on there, and then we will do, let's just do print, let's use an f string, total orders is equal to our total orders. So that should work fine for us. Let's run that and let's see what we get. Logging in, piece of information, there's our total orders down there with an R missed off in our text, but you get the idea. So if you wanted to not run this as headless, we can remove all of these. I'll remove slow-mo as well. We'll clear this up and we'll run it one more time. We won't see anything pop up. We'll just know that it's working in the background headlessly, and we get our total orders back. So there we are, we're done. We've logged into a website with Playwright. We've done it headlessly, very quickly pulled out a little bit of data after the login. It's not something that you could do very easily without some kind of browser automation, so it's very, very handy to know. This has been the first in a very short mini series which I'm doing on Playwright, but in the meantime, whilst you're waiting for this one, if you've enjoyed this video, you might find this one is interesting as well.